This is Shorthammer. It is the 12th of April, 2020, and this is Trading Zones. So we went into the last week, and what we were watching for was could we break this consolidation area here on not just the ES, but on a ton of different tickers. They all had this area that we were struggling to get through in the previous weeks, we could say. And we saw advancement. Look at this push, then the next leg through, and we pushed through to these higher levels that we said we would touch if we could get through. So we pushed through the 2630s, tapped the 2697s, and pushed into the 2780s, looks like here, all the way tested the 2800s. So what are we looking for in the upcoming week? In the upcoming week, we have earnings are on deck. We have a lot of earnings come out from banks, and we'll see how much of that is priced in and how that will affect the market. And also the conversation around stimulus. A lot of people aren't working right now, and there's just a lot of variables that could affect how earnings are received and how the overall market moves. So neither bullish or bearish, just waiting for the setups and the levels on the dailies. So what I'll be watching here is can we advance above the 2800 and potentially push up here into the 2877 area? And what do we do when we get there if we're strong enough to get there? Or will we retrace and will we retest the 2630s? That's really interesting to me because I think if we have significant seller activity and a retracement to the downside again, that we could see some buying or some demand down here around the 2630s, just based on this structure here. We'll see if this holds up. I think a lot of us hope that it does hold up, and we do see more upside, but we'll see. But that's what I'm watching. When we open, will we be up in the 2800s or will we be pushing down near the 2690s? If we're up, do we have an opportunity to push through the 2800s and challenge not just the 2948s, but potentially the 3020 area, right up around that 200? So we'll see how that shakes out on the ES. Let's go here. Same thing on the Russell. We pushed up above this structure 1176 and we pushed through the 1215s, 1243s. We push into 1252s. And so from here to the upside, we have to watch the 1290s, the 1350s, and potentially the 1416s. So the downside, let's watch for the 1215s, 1178s, and the 1138s. If we continue bullish, we should definitely see a squeeze, and we will see an impact from the bank earnings, especially those smaller banks. We will see an impact on the Russell. So let's just keep an eye on that this week to see how that shakes out. Let's go over to the SPY. Same setup on the SPY. We broke this area. Look at that strength. And then the continuation into the 273s. So where we are now, we're between the 280 and the 273 demand and supply areas. So what are we looking for? We're looking for more upside if we can get it. And a push through the 280s will take us to the 286s, the 294s, and the 302s. To the downside, watch the 273s, the 260 area. Now, if we push back into this 260 area, I would look for buyers to step in and try to save us and give us a push back up. In Amazon, we were watching for a break of this structure here, right around the 1955s. Above the 1955s, we were targeting the 2000s. And above that, we pushed into the 2031s and tested the 2052s. In this upcoming week, watch to see if we can push through the 2052s. We have a gap here to close up near the 2090s. So we'll see if we get a push through there, test the 2075s, 2092s, and potentially the 2134s. To the downside, we want to watch out for a back test of the 2031s, the 2001s, and the 1955s. This was a strong area, so if we do pull back, I would expect buyers to try to defend this area here, the 1955 area, if we pull back to that. So this is an interesting setup on Amazon. Love the technicals there. Check it out, Microsoft. Microsoft had a similar setup, nice push up here. We're sort of flattening out. Let's see if we can hold the 163s. To the upside, we have the 168.45s. Above that, the 174s, the 176s, and the 180s. You see this candle structure here. This will be a good area to test and see if we can get through. Sellers may try to defend here. To the downside, watch the 160, the 150, 156s, and the 152s. Let's play with this chart a little bit, get a little slide here. So if I'm looking at this, I want us to, if I'm bullish, I want us to hold above the 160 area, and I would love to see buying come in and push us above the 168s into the 174s. We'll see. But we have earnings coming up there for Microsoft pretty soon also. Next up, we have Netflix. Now on Netflix, we did regain this uptrend, but we are below the 384s. So to the upside, what we want to watch out for are the hold of the 370 area, a push into 384s. And if we can see bullish candle structure above this 384 area and maybe a push into the 405s, then we can see definitely explosion to the upside. To the downside, we want to watch out for the 360 area, 361. Below that, the 343s. We have earnings coming up, so we'll see how what the reaction is as we go into the into earnings, which I believe is the week after next. Is there an earnings run? Will people be bullish just based on so many people being home and maybe new subscribers to Netflix, that so many more people have time to watch it, that maybe their new subscribers will be up? So that is something to watch for on Netflix. Basically, the assumption that there will be so many people watching that there could definitely be a run up into earnings. But the bank earnings will be sort of the first to watch for, and how we react to that. And also the overall coronavirus news can really impact some of these earning run-ups, I believe. So we got to be careful. This is a very different earnings season than we've ever faced, in my opinion. So looking at NVIDIA, we want to the downside watch this 260, the 252s and 249s. We are back above this uptrend, which we do like. To the upside, we want to watch the 266s, 274s, 282s, and 291s. We'll see if we can see a little bit of a push up above and hold over the 274s. It looks like what we need right here, because if we look back, the last time we had any, well, even here, right? Because if you look here around this is what, the 4th of March. Just this push up was immediately sold. And if we go back, we had a gap through this area, but here we had rejection. So that's an interesting area to watch on NVIDIA. Look at this interaction here around the 274s. Advancement, then retracement right back through. Advancement, then retracement back through. So the 274s are an interesting area to watch out for on NVIDIA. And we would love to see a bullish candlestick formations in the progression above this. But this 274 looks like an area that just had problems staying over when it has broken. Even though we see this extension up into the 313s, that's strength, right? But how many days did we spend up there? It was 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Then we're seeing the weakness back down through the 274s. If we look back, we're over here, struggling here. So 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4, and then we see the weakness back through. 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4 day weakness back through. So this 274 is definitely an interesting area to watch on NVIDIA. Not saying that if it pushes over this to get short, but just saying to keep an eye on NVIDIA and maybe look for, if we do see a push through, where is the exhaustion point? And is that a good point to fade? Or if you would prefer to be long based on the previous interactions at this 274 area, maybe that's the area that you look to get long in. But I would be just keep an eye on these 274s to see if we do break above, how much strength and how much appetite do the buyers have to continue to invest and push us to the upside on NVIDIA. Facebook, right around this midpoint. So we're at the 175. So that's how we have 173 and 161. Then below that 150. Above, we have 179, 184, and 191. If we're looking at this candle structure here, look at this last swing low that we have from this top. So we swung here, buyer stepped in, took us on a nice little ride to the upside. So we definitely want to see advancement through this candle structure that we see here and here, and a squeeze up into the 180s if we're bullish. If we're bearish, we want to see this area reject and see a retracement down to the 160s. Earnings, it looks like the earnings is scheduled for the end of April. And this will be interesting because Facebook does depend a lot on ad revenues. And so the question will be, how many companies were investing or plan to invest in more ad buys just based on what's going on with people not working, two, not being able to go out physically to stores. So this is going to be interesting to see what their ad revenue is going to be and what those numbers look like with the cloud of the coronavirus hanging over everything. Some people may be interested in buying this headed into earnings. Also assuming that more people will be purchasing things online and maybe clicking on some of those ads on Facebook. So there's definitely two ways to look at the Facebook, I'll say, outlook heading into earnings. So that's actually definitely very interesting. Keep an eye on this. I like this level to watch for there to be a decision, either bullishness in the push through 179s, or for the sellers to say, hey, we're going to push this back down and the buyer may not have the appetite to hold this, and let's see if we can hold the 173 area. Eye on Intel, looking at this structure here, let's see. So we did see a little bit of advancement above the 5570s, which we did want to see. We pushed up into the 60s, but then we retraced. And we're almost back near those 5570s. So we'll see if buyers step in here, if we do get down there again and push us back to the upside. But from where we are now to the downside, we have 5690s, 5570s, then 5358s. To the upside, we have 5880s, 6090s, and 6206. This is interesting to watch. Look at this structure here on Intel, right around this 5880s. It looks like you see the structure, but we did happen to push through. Look at this, push right into that area. There was a pause, then a push through, then a back, sort of a test back in that area. Then we sort of sold right back through it. But we'll see if we see buyers step in at this 5690s. This will be interesting to watch head into Monday. Okay, so looking at Zoom, we are at the 124 area. So to the downside, we have 119, 113, then 105. To the upside, we have 130, 136, and 143. Looking at the structure, this thing just really took off based on so many people working from home and so many corporations utilizing them to keep in contact with their employees. So we'll see as the market becomes a little bit more bullish, as we're starting to hear dates of potentially there being an ease on the quarantine and people maybe potentially getting back to work. We'll see how ZM continues to react to that. And if we do see, based on the coronavirus numbers, if the numbers go down, if the numbers go up, how this stock reacts, and if we see a pushback to the upside or a retracement here. So it's very interesting to keep an eye on that. Peek at ABBV. We have a push here. So let's look at this. So we're right around the 79 area. There's a lot of candle structure there. So to the downside, we have 79.30s, 77.65s, and 74.70s. To the upside, 81.66, 84.38, and 88.79. We have earnings. When are you earnings? Let's drag this a little bit. Looks like it's scheduled for the 1st of May. So their last earnings, they ran into earnings and they gapped up and had pretty good results. So we'll see if we get another quick run into earnings and a push up. But so many of these tickers are just really overall market and sentiment dependent. So be careful trying to parse individual stories on some of these, and just keep your eye on the overall market and the trend. And I guess depending if you're an investor or a trader, you'll sort of have a different outlook on risk. Let's see, where is this? Let's look at McDonald's. We like this right around 183. What's the structure? Just a little bit choppy in here. Okay. So on McDonald's, to the downside, we have 178, 171. To the upside, we have this 187 area, then 191, then 196. So what we were watching was, could we get through the 171s, and we did push up into the 178s, and we are, it looks like, advancing potentially into the 187s. That was a good move. We'll see if the buyers have the strength to push us back into this structure up around the 190s and how we react there. Earnings are coming up right around the corner. We'll see how that works out, but we do have those levels there to watch on McDonald's. CMG. CMG is interesting here. Got through this, the 690s, and the 718s. Okay, cool. So where we are, 771. So to the upside, we have 781, 823, then 856 is an interesting area. To the downside, we have 745, 717, and 690. See how this holds up. Earnings are really close, and usually CMG will give you a 50-point plus earnings reaction. So this is something interesting to really watch. Let's see. CMG is the 21st. See when McDonald's is the 30th. So I would definitely keep an eye on restaurant earnings, because that sector is going to be really interesting. These upcoming earnings, based on their ability to adapt to the changing, the change in the current market where people cannot come into the restaurant. So how ready are some of these restaurants to interact with a DoorDash, to interact with an Uber, or one of these other companies that are delivering food to their customers? So that's an interesting thing to watch, to see how many of these companies were only doing this before, but are currently executing this flawlessly. So this will be a really interesting thing to watch. And as these restaurant earnings start to come out, maybe look for some low risk plays based on the thesis that you have of restaurants that may be similar. So if you compare a McDonald's and a Burger King or a Wendy's, you may look at those and say, okay, if this one does well, does that mean the others will also do well, or do they have weaknesses that that McDonald's may not have? So there will be definitely some interesting, I'll say, theses around earnings, just based on how some of the early reporting comes out, and also seeing, will there be guidance, or will a lot of these companies just forego guidance and really give a soft estimates of the projections for next quarter. Thank you for your time. If you like this video and would like to receive more content like this, don't hesitate to click the like button and go to our YouTube channel, Power of Pivots, where you can subscribe and look forward to receiving not just content from me, but content from Elisa as she shares her Power of Pivot script setups and the way she utilizes those scripts to find great intraday plays, swing plays, and also plays on the futures. Please stay safe. Thank you for your time and have a wonderful week of trading.